On this episode, we chat with German Jannik Hiller about his experiences as a university exchange student in Thailand.
So if you've ever wondered what it's like to work your way through the Thai education system as a foreigner, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 on a dare to see if I could learn the ways of the Muay Thai warrior, and spoiler alert, not even close.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 24 years ago. Fell in love with seeing my friends leave Thailand, quote unquote, forever, only to return later. So I chose never to leave in the first place.
Yeah, man, I've known a few people, and I tell them when they come back, I'm like, we already gave you a going away party. You don't get another one if you leave again.
That's right. Well, we will not mention him, but we do have a mutual friend who had 2 or 3 going away parties.
No, that's cheating. You only get one.
That's right. That's right. Now, the truth is, I do have some buddies who left and have not come back, but, you know, they will. Eventually, they will.
Yeah, Bangkok has them now.
That's right. We want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about my difficulty in explaining complex figures like Bob Dylan to young Thai students in my American music class, Greg's experience with a shoe painter at Chatuchak Market who turned his ratty old vans into incredible works of art, and you guessed it, more talk on AI, this time how it's being used to generate fake video of the fires in Los Angeles and snowstorms in Bangkok. To learn how to become a patron and get all this good stuff, plus full access to over 700 bonus and regular back episodes, click the support button at the top of our website.
Yeah, that's right. And as always, if you have a comment, a show idea, or just want to say hi, head to BangkokPodcast.com and click the little microphone button on the bottom right to leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the show.
For sure.
All right. Well, in this episode, we chat to a young fella by the name of Jannik Hiller. Now, from time to time, we ask listeners to send us any show ideas they have, and Jannik did just that. He wrote to us saying how he'd like a show that discusses the process and experiences of a foreign student studying in a Thai university, just like he did. Now, first, I was a little bit wishy-washy, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I know absolutely nothing about this side of life here, and that it would be a really interesting discussion. Ed, you probably know more about it than I do, but I don't know anything about it, so that's what I was thinking.
Right.
So I figured I would cut out the middleman, and I just asked Jannik if he'd like to do it, and he said, I guess, sure. So Jannik, who is from Germany, spent a semester studying at Chulalongkorn University, and by all means had an excellent experience, but I still had a lot of questions. What did he study? How were the professors? What was a culture shock like? And most importantly, what advantages would you get from moving from a European university to a Thai university? Lots to discuss here, so here is my very interesting discussion with our pal Jannik Hiller. All right, I am happy to be talking to a young fella by the name of Jannik Hiller, and I hope my pathetic attempt at a German didn't come through too strongly there. Jannik, welcome to the Bangkok Podcast.
Hi, Greg. No, your attempt was great. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to talk to you.
No, that's great. Now, I discussed this a little bit in our intro that we did a few minutes ago, but you reached out to us, and you're a listener of the show from Germany, but right now you're not in Germany, are you? You're in Copenhagen, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was born in Germany in a city called Mannheim. It's next to Frankfurt. Uh-huh. And at the moment, I'm doing my master's degree in Copenhagen. So actually, I'm located in Copenhagen right now.
Oh, wow. Great. Oh, both places I would love to get to, but have yet to explore. But anyway, you reached out to us and you suggested an idea for a show, which I was actually quite intrigued by. And I thought it would be really interesting because personally, I have zero insight into this. And I know it's something that we've never covered on the show before, but you came to Thailand as an exchange student to go to university here. And I thought that was really interesting. Like I said, I know nothing about it, so I want to hear what that was like, because I'm always surprised when I walk around a university campus here. I don't know why I'm surprised, but I'm always surprised when I see a lot of international students. And I'm like, do people really come to Thailand for university? And I guess they do. So walk us through your thought process. I mean, you're sitting in Europe and you're thinking of like, what's my next step? And you settle on Thailand. How did that come about? And why did it come about?
Yeah, it all started 2019. I did my high school diploma in Germany in 2020, and after that, I wanted to travel. I wanted to go to Thailand, but I had no opportunity because of COVID and because of my bachelor. It started after that. Yeah. So during my bachelor's, my interest in Thailand grew and grew and grew, and I talked to a lot of people who have visited Thailand and said it was just an amazing country, an amazing experience. So I thought, why don't I do a exchange semester to Thailand, to Bangkok? So that's what I did in 2022 then. So my fourth semester of university.
Okay, and you'd never been to Thailand before, is that right?
Exactly. I've never been to Thailand. It was a huge step for me. But I wanted to experience exactly that. I wanted to go as far away as possible from Germany. Didn't want to go to Europe because of some German or European influences. I wanted to see a completely different part of the world. So it was my first time, but it was not my last time in Thailand when I did the exchange semester.
Wow. So that, that's really great, because, thinking back to my early time here and talking to a lot of people over the past 20 years, like moving to a new country with a totally different culture and a totally different language, it is very daunting and it can be downright scary. And a lot of people just be like, well, I'll go to visit, but I won't move there. Like moving there is crazy. But, it takes balls to do, to do that, especially to a place you've never been before. So what about Thailand? Why didn't you go to Japan or Vietnam or, some other country, or South America, some other country with a different culture to Europe?
Yeah, I was always kind of amazed by Asia, by the food, by the culture, and as you just mentioned, it's scary to be 4 or 5 months in a different country. So because I chose Thailand, before I chose Thailand, I was very deep into research and reading books and listening to podcasts. That's how I came across your podcast also.
Yay.
And I did a lot of information seeking. Maybe that's my personal trait that can be good, can be bad. But in that case, it helped me a lot to prepare myself to go to Bangkok. And yeah, I just watched a lot of movies. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I was amazed by everything I saw, even the downsides that I saw in the videos. I was like, I want to experience that, so I chose Thailand.
That's amazing. And it doesn't surprise me. You did a lot of research. I mean, let's just lean right into the German stereotypes of like, there are rules.
There are rules.
We must research.
Yeah. But maybe I embody them very good. So like it's kind of my trait to do a lot of research, and if I like something, I read into it, and I can't wait till I experience it.
Oh, that's great. But no, let's be honest here. Like Ed is a professor at a Thai university, and he teaches for an international style course. And I don't know the nuances of this, but from what I understand, Thai universities are not considered among the world's best. So when you were thinking of furthering your education, did that enter into it? Like, Thailand's universities are pretty good, and you went to Chulalongkorn, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Chula is widely considered one of, if not the quote unquote best university in Thailand. Your mileage may vary depending on who you are and what you do. But when you compare them against other universities, for instance, in Germany, they probably don't stack up that well. Am I right with that?
Yeah, you're completely right with that. And I was aware of that, but my line of thinking was that I'm doing a bachelor degree in a very known German university. I want to do a good master's degree, but I want to live But I want to have the professional side, but I also want to experience something. I want to live. I want to enjoy a little bit of my life before I start working and stuff like that. So for me, it was fine to downgrade the education a little bit to experience something amazing. I heard from a lot of friends that went to very good universities as exchange, that they were studying all the time and didn't even experience the country. And I thought I could imagine that I will love Thailand. So I wanted to experience Thailand. I want to see the culture, the people and stuff. So for me, that was worth more than getting a little better education. I mean, you could also do internships after that. So for me, that was no problem to choose Thailand as destination.
That's really interesting. And you use the word downgrade. And I think that's a good word, although it might have a more negative connotation than I think we want to use here, because let me use my son as an example. Now, he goes to an international school, but it is a quote unquote affordable international school. So it's not ISB or Patana or Harrow or one of these schools that costs $1 million baht a year. And, so my thought with that was like, well, he's not going to one of the best schools, but he's going to a school that's good enough. And as long as he's happy and enjoying himself, that's what I'm most interested in and most what I think is most important. But on the flip side of that, because he's not getting this, highest standard in the world, highest possible level of education, hopefully that I can supplement that as a parent. So he can sort of downgrade his educational, career, but at the same time, I can maybe provide some help to fill in the blanks. And I think maybe that's what you were thinking too. Like maybe the focus on the top education is not so important right now. What I want to do is supplement that with cultural understanding and travel understanding, which, some people may say is even more important than hitting the books for 25 hours a day, like you said some of your friends did.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Maybe I, in quote, downgraded my education from a German perspective, but for a me perspective, for a life perspective, I upgraded the part of my life to just enjoy a little bit and just to live and to get some experiences and to find new friends and stuff. I think it can also harm yourself if you're just focused on career all the time. So yeah,
Right.
that's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, that's a very mature outlook for such a young fellow like yourself. You usually only learn that when you're old and bitter like me through cold, hard experience. So what was the research like when you were looking into where to go in Thailand? How did you settle on Chula, and what was your criteria for selecting that?
Yeah, so we at the university I studied, we had a list of different universities that we could choose to go to exchange. And as I mentioned before, I wanted to go to Thailand, and there were 3 universities that we could choose from in Thailand. It was, I think, Thammasat, Mahidol, and Chula. And I chose Chula because it was well known, as you mentioned. I looked at a lot of pictures and also the locations, and I thought it was very central in Bangkok, Chula.
Sure.
And I also had a friend that went there, and he said to me that it was an amazing experience. So that helped a lot too. So I put Chula in my first place, and luckily I got accepted. And yeah, that was my kind of research. I did less educational research for the universities, but more about the country and the culture. Looked
Right.
a lot of videos and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's cool. So how long were you a student there, and when?
Yeah, it was 2022 from August till December, so 4 months. But I travel. I think it was 1 month before I arrived to travel a little bit and to find myself around, and just I didn't want to come there and on the next day I have to start my university life. So just to get to know some people and to get to know how to get around, maybe download Grab or something like that. It's like the first steps.
Right.
The first steps, I wanted to be there a little bit early, so I arrived 1 month early. Then it was August till December, and then I left. I think 2 days before Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so what was it like, man? Like when you showed up, what was that first month like getting prepped? And the next question is, what was your first day, week, month of school like? What were your thoughts?
So In my honest opinion, the Thursday was horrible because everything went wrong. I arrived, it was so hot, I had too much clothes on. I went to the hotel and they said my room wasn't booked. And so I had
Oh
to go
God.
to another hotel, and there I fall asleep. And then I woke up because of like the time gap between Germany and Thailand. And I woke up and I walked uh, the wrong areas, and it was a little bit smelly, but it was just the first day. And when I woke up the next day, I just walked the streets again, and I just fell in love with everything. Like it amazed me a lot. And in the first month, it was before university started. It was amazing because I would describe it like I didn't think a lot. I just did stuff. Like
Okay.
I didn't plan my day like I do in Germany. I just did my stuff. It
Right.
was also overwhelming because in at Chula you have a school uniform, for example, that we
Hmm.
don't have in Germany. So I needed to get my school uniforms. I needed to go to the university to get some documents ready. So I did all that organizational stuff, and I traveled a little bit. And during that month, I just completely fell in love to Thailand. I moved into my dormitory. It was like a big apartment complex in Soi Navin, where I think it was approximately 100 to 200 international students from Chula who lived there, with a pool, with a gym, and it was amazing. That was my first month. So the first day was horrible, but then it just went up, and I just fell in love more and more.
Oh, that's great. That's great. My first couple of months in Thailand were not very enjoyable either, especially when I first moved to Chiang Mai, and that was fine because I was
Mhm.
basically on vacation. But when I moved to Bangkok to get a job, my first few months were really not very enjoyable. I was very lonely. I was
Mhm.
broke. I was lost. So I know what you went through. Well, what was your living situation like in the dormitory? Did you
Yeah,
share with someone? Or?
there were different possibilities. I could share a room with two, three, or four people. So in total, there would be four, three, or two. Or you could
Uh-huh.
get your own room, and I had my own room, and it was very big. I think it was 60 square meters.
Damn.
I think I paid 350 euros. Um, I don't know the calculation out of my head in baht, but
Let
it
me
was
let me
very
do that right now.
affordable.
350 euro in baht. Help me out here, Guggen. That's 12,400 baht a month.
Yeah, exactly right. That, and I think the most expensive thing there was the AC, because I'm used to sleep with AC all night, so that
Yeah.
was the only expensive thing there. But we had a pool, we had a gym. Every day there was like a shuttle service to university. So every morning, but I never used that. I just booked Bolt or Grab, like a motorcycle, and I just ride it to through the traffic to the university. It was
Yeah,
the
you're
most
fitting right
convenient
in.
way for me, and it was it was also very surprising. The first day compared to the last day, like the first day clinging onto the motorcycle guy, no phone in your hand, with the
Right.
helmet on, very scared, and on the last day, like, chilling in the
Right.
back and not being afraid anymore, and yeah.
You're sitting side saddle like a girl and checking your phone and carrying a box under the other arm.
Make some makeup and something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. What were the other students like? I mean, I think back to my university days. Your fellow classmates who are strangers on day
Mm,
one eventually sort of end up becoming your friends and your little social group. And
mm.
where were your fellow students from, and how did those relationships form?
I was very lucky because actually one person from my home university also went to Chula and had the same program as me. You could also choose different programs. So I was very lucky that I knew one person. But if I think again, we had people from Mexico, Colombia, the US, a lot of Italians. There were a lot of Germans, surprisingly. I think we were like 15 German people.
Wow.
There were people from Japan, two from China. So it was very mixed. Every continent, some of South Africa, it was very mixed, and that's exactly what I wanted to see, like to feel. I love internationality, so that's why I'm doing my masters also in Copenhagen right now, and that's the first time I experienced different cultures coming together, understand each other. So yeah, from all the different countries of the world.
That must have been very encouraging and like exciting, like
Mm,
you're like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is exactly what I want.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. When going back a little bit, when you announced that you were going to Thailand for school, did anyone at home go, "What? Why?"
A lot of people, but because they just told me, just go to Italy or something, and after your bachelor degree, just travel there. But for me, I also wanted to see the university system in Bangkok. I wanted to see other students that study there. So for me, it was a different pictures. But there were a lot of people who quite didn't understand. But there was on the flip side also a lot of people who said, "Oh, that's so amazing!" Like we just
Uh,
hear about people that travel there like with a backpack and stuff, but studying there is something that is not too well known. So there were a lot of both sides. There were both sides, but
right,
at
right.
the end, all my friends supported me, and a lot of friends came in to visit me because I just told them amazing stories. So they all came, and yeah, in the end,
Nice,
everyone.
nice.
Yeah.
And what was when classes started? What was
hmm
your impression of the teachers, of
hmm
the facilities, of
hmm
the campus? What was
hmm
your takeaway?
Yeah, the campus was huge. There were some bus lines in the campus, so I wasn't used to that. Um, my first impression was that it was completely different. So, like the university system in Bangkok or in Thailand, I just can tell you from my perspective of Chula, but I think it's quite similar between the Thai universities and the German system is so different. Like we had to do a lot of presentations, we had midterm exams, we had a class where we have to dress as like ghosts or something like that to do a presentation. So it was way more interacting, and it was kind of strange. There was so much respect for the teacher, but at the same time, when other groups did a presentation, people left and come in. So there were a lot of respect, and on the downside, something that you wouldn't do in Germany. There were all these small assignments and midterm exams that I don't have in Germany. Like I have one exam in the end of the semester, and if you show up or if you don't show up, uh, no one cares in Germany. But there, you have to be there. You have to dress in the uniform with the tie, with the buckle. So there
Ah,
were a lot of differences, but I really liked it because in the groups, we had to form groups, not just the internationals among themselves, but also groups of Thai people and stuff like that. So you get to know the Thai people. When you prepare a presentation, you go out to dinner and maybe go out after that. So you learn from the Thai people, local
right.
facts and stuff like that. So I really liked it, but it was
And
very
you,
different.
yeah, and you were doing international business. That was your
Exactly.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
international business. I had like five different subjects. For example, marketing. I had one international business and management studies, and I also had one like rhetorical course where we just had every week we had to do a 5 minute presentation without something, and we had to improve our body language and stuff like that. So also a course that we would never had in a German university. So
Oh, that's interesting. It's so funny, because I when I was a teacher, and I use the word teacher in quotation marks because I was, not officially qualified or anything, but I taught at a girls' high school, and the very first thing I always taught my class was I went around and I asked everyone to line up and shake my hand,
mhm.
and almost every single student gave me, like, we call it the limp fish handshake, where they don't
Yeah.
really squeeze. And I was like, no, no, no. When you meet a foreigner, especially when you meet a foreigner, you got to squeeze, you got to give confident pumps and look them in the eye.
In the
That
eye.
body language is very important, especially when you're dealing with international business clients.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was an amazing course, but like it would never happen in the German university I studied. So it was so different, everything, but it was like the completely opposite, and I really liked the complete opposite. So I was a little bit afraid to go back to Germany again. But but yeah, it were a lot of differences, but it was very, very nice. And it was very, very cold in the classrooms. Like the AC was was powering. It was crazy. Like I was freezing in there with a jacket on, and then yeah,
That's so funny. It's like a movie theater.
yeah.
And what about your professors? What was your takeaways on them?
In an academic way, I think there were no major differences. I think they just have a different style of teaching. Like because there were small classes actually. We were like 60 to 100 people, and in Germany we were 450 at my university at least. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
very small and interactive. There are a lot of questions. There were grades when you talk in class and raise your hands and stuff like that. So it was a completely different style. But like the English was great. There were Thai professors, but I studied in English because I couldn't speak a word of Thai when I arrived.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was completely fine.
Interesting. Let me talk about the uniform a little bit. How does that work out? Where do you, are there uniform stores, and what are the rules? And did you find that sort of constricting, or maybe insulting is not the right word, but infantilizing? Like, what are you doing? Why do I have to wear a uniform? I'm an adult now.
Yeah, I quite like the uniform just because of the fact that you don't have to worry what to wear in the morning or something like that. You just put on your uniform. To your question, where I find the uniform, there were like 2 suggested stores for school uniforms that we could go to. I think one was on campus and one was in MBK, I think. Or in a big mall. I think it was MBK. And so you just arrive there and tell them from which university you are, and then they have like a list to verify that you are a student. And then you get like
really?
you get a tie, you get a belt with a buckle, a white shirt, and black trousers, black long trousers. And they were horrible because it was so hot. And when you are on a scooter to university and you have those long black thick pants on, it was very hard the first month. But I actually quite liked it. And actually, there were some funny stories where I walked around the city and people just came up to me and talked to me. Hey, you're a Chula student, because like they could identify me from the belt and from the university, from the uniform, and they just chatted with me for 5 minutes and then they left. So I think it was quite nice to wear the uniforms.
It's interesting because a lot of people don't know, but there are identifying marks on the
Yes.
uniforms, and your belt has the Chula logo on the buckle, right?
Exactly, and the tie also, the belt and the tie.
Oh, okay. It's interesting. My first impression with school uniforms is always like, that's stupid. What a juvenile thing to do. But Ed, actually, we discussed it one time, and he said, well, there's a lot of people who think it's actually a good thing, because especially when you're dealing with a country like Thailand, which has a lot of class differences and sort of like this class system built in. And like you said, you don't have to think about what your uniform is. So if someone comes from a rich family and they come to school with like brand new Gucci clothes, and you come from some poor family that can't afford that, or some normal family that can't afford that, that might sort of create friction sometimes. But if everyone's got to wear the same thing all the time, that eliminates that completely. So it's sort of a social leveler, which I think is an interesting idea.
Yeah, exactly. And like for my case, I just had it for 5 months, so I didn't thought about the long time effects of wearing a uniform, because I just were there for 5 months. But I think you mentioned some important points.
Yeah. Did you have any moments during your time here where you were like, man, I don't know if this is going to work out, or I made a mistake, or like this isn't really what I was expecting? Any like difficult patches you had to get through?
I think some of the times some organizational stuff was very different. To get the new visa, I had to go to the university and request a document, and then there was just no one there, and like all the organizational stuff was very hard compared to Germany. But I think maybe that's an exception, because in Germany everything is on point and very strict, and then you go there and then at that time you get this
rules.
exactly like that. So that was completely different.
Right.
And also people being on time or not on time. But I really enjoy that. And like the only really bad moment that happened to me was when I got food poisoning 3 times. But that's just a small incident. But like in general, I have nothing to complain about from a whole 6 months. And even after that, I visited Thailand again, and I never had some complications. Just real love, I think.
That's great. It's so great to hear that it was such a positive experience.
Yeah.
And so when you graduated, you had what? What did you come out with?
With a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration.
Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Okay. What was your next step, and how did your experience in Thailand help that next step?
Yeah. Because of my experience in Thailand, I thought I just want to travel more, to get back to Thailand and to experience myself more, to see different cultures and stuff like that. So after my bachelor, my initial plan was to continue with my master's immediately. But I did that. I did a gap year. It's a common thing in Germany where you have 1 year between your bachelor's and your master's. I did 2 internships, and the rest of the time I just traveled, and I went to Thailand again for 3 months, 3.5 months. I trained Muay Thai at Phuket.
Oh, wow.
And I had just an amazing time. And I think I wouldn't have done that if I didn't went on the exchange semester.
Right. So it kind of inspired you, yeah.
It's inspired me to do more for myself in the moment and not for my career in the future.
Right, yeah. Would you recommend this experience for someone who had more of a focus on academia versus what you did, which was more of a focus on life experience?
I think I would, because people that are focused a lot on academics and careers and stuff like that, after the bachelor's, they would do a master. And after the master, they would get a job where they have to work 70 hours plus and stuff like that. So I would actually recommend it to them even more to have like a small break between the hard job goes on and stuff like that, to just chill a little bit, enjoy yourself, enjoy a beautiful country, enjoy beautiful cultures. So I think in my perspective, I would recommend that to the people with a high focus on career even more. But of course, you can argue that exchange semester at Bocconi or some Oxford University or something like that would benefit them more in the career style, but maybe in the personal style, and to prevent, I don't know, a burnout in early ages or something like that. I would recommend them to go to Thailand.
Yeah, that's definitely a lifestyle decision. But I think that, I mean, an educational CV with, Thailand, university in Thailand in the middle of these sort of first world countries or universities with very high prestige levels might look a little bit out of place, maybe, but I don't know.
But I think there are mixed opinions about that, because some people actually say that benefits, because you can see from that person who went to Thailand that he's open, that he can fit themselves into new cultures, even in an international work environment. It's important that you come along with different cultures to know how to speak English, for example, stuff like that. So an exchange semester in a country that is so far away actually shows positive traits that some recruiters or some jobs even want. So I think there's this mix of the benefits and the negative facts. But there are actually benefits to go to Thailand that even some high level jobs want to see.
That's really interesting. And I'm glad that a lot of companies are trying to think that way now. Like, it's not all about academics. It's not all about your marks. Like, there's a lot of other soft skills that may even be more important
exactly
when you get out there in the world. So hopefully the old fuddy-duddies in charge will start to realize that.
Yeah,
and maybe give experiences like yours a bit more weight than the old school people who would think like it's got to be all about the grades, all about the names of the institutions you go to, blah blah blah.
I hope so, Greg. I hope so.
So you're in Copenhagen now. You're doing your master's degree.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how many more years of that do you
have? 1.5. I just started it last semester, so in August. So I have 1.5 years left. It's a 2-year master program. And after that, a little bit of traveling and then directly into the job.
Well, I don't know. I think you should get your doctorate. What do you think?
Nah, I don't think so. It's enough academic stuff for me.
So as we're wrapping up here, I do have one more question, and it's something I'm curious about. What was the cost of this whole thing? And I don't want, you don't need to get into super specifics, but really roughly your tuition and your monthly living expenses. Do you have any idea for that?
Yeah, I think the first big expense was the flight there. I think it was 900 euros. But I really booked it very early. Then, as I mentioned, I paid 300 to 400 with electricity and water to live, for my accommodation in the student apartment.
That's euros, 300 to 400 euros.
Exactly, euros.
Yeah, okay.
I think I paid roughly about 5 euros a day for transportation, for Grab bikes or for a taxi or for the metro or something like that.
About 175 baht, yeah.
I paid no tuition fees or something at all, so it was completely free to me to study there.
Wait, really? I had no way. Well, how come? Why?
Because it's a partner university from my university, and if you are a partner, my university offers Chula to send them students for free, and the other way around. So I didn't have to pay any tuition fees or something like that, just like the books or like the school uniform and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. So it was basically free and you only had to pay living expenses.
Exactly.
Damn, that's a pretty good deal. And it works both ways too. So if you're a student in Thailand, you can go to Germany.
Yeah, and pay nothing. Yeah.
Wow. Did you go to school with anyone like that?
No, I just met one who went to Austria.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To Austria.
Damn, that seems like a really good deal.
Yeah.
Taking notes for my...
Yeah, but I think it's a common thing in Germany if you have partner universities. And in my case, I have to say that my exchange semester was not voluntarily, so I had to do it. So maybe that's also a factor that come into account. But all my friends also from different universities, they never had to pay tuition fees when they went on exchange, not as a free mover, but like at a partner university. If you want to choose another university that is not a partner university, then it's called free mover, and then you have to pay the tuition fees.
I see. Okay. Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. I'm taking notes for my son in about 15 years.
Yeah.
He's, about 10 years, I guess, when he's hopefully furthering his education somewhere. Maybe he'll come see Uncle Jannik in Germany.
In Germany, yeah.
Well, Jannik, thanks a lot, man. That was really interesting. I had no idea about any of that, and I'm far too old to be thinking about that these days. But it's really, really cool to hear what your experience was like, and that it was such a positive thing for you to come to Thailand and get some life experience.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation, Greg.
Yeah. Well, when are you going to be in Bangkok next?
Next, I think after my master's degree.
After your master's degree? All right. Well, send us a message. We'll get a beer. And a German beer.
A German beer.
we will continue this conversation. No Chang. We'll stick to some imported versions of that. Yeah. So thanks a lot, man. That was really interesting.
Thank you. See you.
Yeah. So this is a little bit more my world than your world, but I like hearing it from the student's perspective. So I interact with exchange students at my university, and occasionally I hear feedback from them, but that's not really my job. Like, they're just students in my class, and I just teach, So I rarely sit down and talk to them like you did and hear the whole story from their perspective. They are a special type of visitor because they're not tourists. They're not expats. It's this whole exchange student thing. It is a special type of travel.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. They're sort of like these like the third culture kids almost, right? Like they're in the middle of it all.
Right.
They're not working. They're reliant on university. They're probably fairly young and on their own in a strange place for the first time. It must be an interesting experience. Like, they're not tourists, so they still have responsibilities.
Right. Yeah, well, they're semi-tourists. I always try to be nice to my exchange students, and I give them a little more flexibility on exams and things like that than I do my regular students, and because I know that the exchange students want to travel, but I don't let them get out of things. Like, I occasionally have these exchange students who will just say, like, "Oh, I'm an exchange student. Like, do I have to take this exam?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yes, you do." Yeah, like they really want to treat the whole experience as if they are tourists. And, so I have to tell them, you are enrolled in the university. You have to do all the work. I'll bend a few deadlines and stuff, so you can, see Thailand while you're here. Like, I want them to have a good experience. But the other, he said some interesting things about, like, the academic experience. He was at a different university and a different type of program. But what I found out in general with, exchange students in my program is that in the very beginning they try very hard and get good grades, and then once they decide, oh, this is really easy, and then they start partying or traveling, and then a lot of times my exchange students, by the end of the semester, they're getting mediocre grades.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, so they
start out like they crush the first exam, and they're like, oh, this is Thailand, this is easy. And then they start partying and traveling, and then by the end of the semester, they're getting C's. So I always warn my exchange students about that.
Interesting. Well, he touched on something also that I as a parent struggle with, and that is like, he said that he sort of deprioritized the academic angle of his education in order to prioritize the cultural experience and the travel experience, which I think is great. I think is fantastic. And there's a lot of proponents of the fact that like you don't even need to go to university, just travel. You'll learn everything you need to know. So he sort of chose a middle ground there, but it's something that I struggle with as a parent because, I can't afford to send my son to the most expensive universities and schools in Thailand, not even close. It's outrageous. So I'm sending him to a less prestigious institution that I can afford. But at the same time, I'm hoping that even though the focus for me as a parent is somewhat less on his academic experience, that me, as his father can sort of supplement that with some interesting discussions and some home learning and some outside school experiences.
You travel with him.
Yeah, travel as well. So that's what Jannik seemed to be on about too. So I think we saw eye to eye there.
One of my biggest regrets as an undergrad is not doing an exchange year. I was looking into going to England for a year, and then I don't know whatever. I ended up blowing it off, or it didn't work out. And I think it's a great idea, man. I think exchange programs are genius.
Yeah. When I was in university, so I had the opportunity to travel for a job for like 6 months to like the next province. And I was like, ooh, that's pretty far away. Not sure I could do that. So I didn't do it. And now I look back like, what a bonehead. But, no, thanks, Jannik, for coming on. Good suggestion. And really nice to chat with Jannik. He's a very nice young man. Seems to have his head screwed on straight. He's going to do great things, and hopefully we'll come back to Thailand and he can take us around to some of his favorite German beer houses here. And we can get down to business. Yeah. Thanks, Jannik. That was great.
Thank you.
All right, let's do something we call Would You Rather, where one of us picks two contrasting situations tied to Thailand to debate and choose which one we prefer. Now, Ed, I've got kind of a current events themed Would You Rather.
Oh, okay.
And you got to shoehorn the idea into this little discussion here because it's not apples and apples. It's a little bit apples to oranges, but I'm looking at what's happening in Los Angeles right now with the crazy fires going on and the natural disasters of that.
It's insane.
That magnitude. It's crazy. But would you rather live in a place that is under threat by recurring natural disasters like that? Or would you rather live in a place like Bangkok, which is under threat of recurring natural disasters like floods and
so this is definitely a lesser of two evils thing.
Pretty much. So would you rather deal with the potential of fire? Or would you rather deal with the potential of floods?
Dude, those fires look so great. The thing about flooding in Bangkok is it's kind of a regular thing, and it can get extreme, but man, those fires are scary. And I think the fires historically were relatively rare. So everyone knows California has wildfires, but sure. I feel that 20, 30 years ago, there would be, one big wildfire every 3 years, and then it's every 2, and then every year there's wildfires, so now, and again, I don't know what the cause is. I don't know if it's climate change or who knows what the heck's going on. Maybe the government is screwed up managing it. Who knows? The cause doesn't matter, but those, it's been blowing my mind. So I would have to choose flooding. Don't those fires seem more life-threatening than floods?
Yeah, they do. They do.
But I mean, floods can destroy your home for sure. Back in the 2011 floods, my buddy had insane pictures of his house underwater. His house in Rungsit was just completely underwater.
Yeah, same.
He's in a boat. He's in a boat at the second floor of his house.
Yeah,
So and floods also are kind of gross and germy, and it's
right. But it seems to me the potential of fighting back a fire, like there's no flood fighters.
That's true.
There's just really nothing you can do except put up sandbags and hope for the best.
Right.
So I don't know. I think the fires are probably scarier.
Yeah.
But I think the floods are maybe more insidious and more persistent. Harder to stop.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I would choose the floods. Just because they seem less life threatening. It's funny. This brings up a story that I was talking to my students about tornadoes in the U.S. I don't know. It was some tornado story that came up on the news, and my students were asking me about it, and their mind was kind of blown that like Kansas has to deal with this, and I'm like, no, yeah, they do. It's like it's not just a movie,
Right.
It's a thing. Like if you live in the middle of the U.S., you will see a tornado. You will.
Yeah. Reminds me of one of my favorite stories from ancient Rome. There was this incredibly rich guy named Crassus, and he was one of the richest people in ancient Rome. And the way he became rich was when, Rome didn't have a fire brigade. So if they did, it was sort of like the neighbors got together and gathered buckets and tried to put it out. So if a building was on fire, Crassus, who had a bunch of slaves, because a lot of the Roman economy is run on slavery, he would show up with, like 100 of his slaves and be like, oh, that's a terrible shame that your building is on fire. I'll tell you what, I'll buy it. And he offered some ridiculous low price. And if the person said, no, that's too low, then he's like, oh, well, that's a shame. And he would just stand there and watch it burn. And as the fire got bigger and bigger and bigger, the price got lower and lower and lower. And so eventually he ended up owning like an insane amount of property because he would do this terrible story. But smart businessman.
The evils of capitalism in ancient Rome.
Yeah, not related to Bangkok at all. But there you go. Anyway.
Alrighty. A final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
That's right. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. Send us a voicemail through our website that will feature on the show. Hit me up on Blue Sky at BKKGreg. Thank you for listening, everyone. Take it easy out there. We'll see you back here next week.